This is a paradox. But I swear to you, this Niva hauls quieter than the modern one. Rides already, and to be precise harder, but hauls monotonously. It has a very unique sound. I'll try to explain. Such a hull of struggle. Not a cry of inevitability. Permanent four-wheel drive is an innovation embodied and implemented on a domestic SUV. Many of Niva's technical solutions were bold for that time. The creator of the Niva, now alas deceased, Pyotr Mikhailovich Prusev, with battles and blood, introduced their design. Because SUVs have never done this anywhere before. Let's talk tires. Native tires look entourage, but they do not like asphalt. They also add their note of howling, and they just demand to slow down and move off-road. I think if you have ever driven such a car, then you understand what I mean. But I won't do it. I just feel sorry for the car. Domestic car, which is rightfully considered the most successful in the line of VAZ cars. In addition, this is probably the most famous domestic car in the world, but also the ancestor of a whole class in the global automotive industry. This is, of course, more significant. And it's all about it, Niva. The history of the birth of the Volga off-road vehicle is not entirely typical for such cars. The contract with the Italians was coming to an end. VAZ had to create its own models without relying on or looking back at the Romans. On the other hand, Soviet citizens living in villages and hard-to-reach areas were deprived of comfortable transport.
In 1972, the first samples of the car with a simplified body were made. On them we tested only the idea of the machine. Even then it became clear that the car turned out, that it was worth working on it. Lightweight, powerful engine, good axle weight distribution provided this car with good speed and good cross-country ability. Neither in our country nor abroad there are no analog cars of this class.
Had you heard about the competition between enterprises? AZLK, IZH and VAZ competed in the creation of an SUV not for the army. I emphasize, not for the army. Do you know why VAZ won? And I know, and I'll tell you. Whatever anyone might say about lobbying, Niva's design at that time was progressive. The most important thing is that Niva's body was load-bearing. Then it was unusual. This violated the then-established dogma that an SUV should be equal. Someone calls Niva the first crossover, but then you need to remember the Gaz M72 as well. What is the main thing in this city? Bad weather and endless construction. Of course, there were a lot of things, prototypes, small series, but it's almost impossible to say exactly what came before, an egg or a chicken. The Niva has become the quintessence of an idea that combines the comfort of a passenger car and the cross-country ability of an SUV. The first production cars left the assembly line on April 5, 1977. Most importantly, the success of the car was phenomenal, and not in our country, but abroad. That is why the party ordered the annual production plan to be doubled at once. Another secret of the Niva lay in the fact that most of the components came from cars already produced in Togliatti. This greatly facilitated production. Even appearance bears the imprint of this fact. But at the same time, the design itself was distinctive and original. Three-way cube with round eyes and high wheels. And very compact, I think you yourself have noticed it. And now a little more about the size. It is 147 inches long, 66 inches wide, and 64 inches high. Ground clearance 8.6 inches. Our car is quite early, 1979 release. That's what makes her interesting. Many thanks to the guys who provided it and allowed to ride. So, on early machines there are a number of features. Let's say this chrome grille trim, door sill, right mirror from another earlier 2103, also chromed. And the engine did not have to be reinvented. A heart from the VAZ 2106 was installed here. Now a little about the changes. The pallet is a little different, and the front axle is also hanging on the engine. The engine itself has very mediocre numbers for an off-road vehicle. Displacement 95 cubic inches, maximum power 80 horsepower at 5,400 RPM, maximum torque 116 Newton meters at 3,500 RPM, 3-inch bore, 3.1 stroke. As I said, typical SUV characteristics. Well, the engine, of course, is a carburetor. The spare wheel is placed face down. Only then will it be turned inside out, and the dear place for dirty rags, keys and other nonsense will disappear. Why turned out? Later, another necessary device will be put here, an amplifier from the VAZ 2108. Trunk width and capacity have been designed to last forever. The headlights here are from a 2106. It has a capacity of 70 gallons. But if you fold the backs of the rear seats, then 155. And to expand the back sofa, you don't have to be smart. You need to be patient. So, gentlemen, and now an amazing attraction. Who came up with this way to fold the seats? He needs to tear off his hands. And it doesn't fit. How it's done? Nothing works. Well, bastards. Let me out of here. But what to do? Well, no. I won't give up so easily. 1, 2. Oh, fingers. Something like this. For some reason, the loop does not allow me to lower them. And in general, something is wrong with all this. I was right about patience. For those who say that I'm doing it wrong, I'll try to do it ahead. And it also doesn't work. Do you understand what the problem is? No matter how I twist, I can't fully expand the Niva's seats. I don't get it. The loops do not allow it to that side. It simply does not add up here. If someone knows how to properly lay out the seats, then write in the comments. See, it doesn't work? Waiting for advice. I gave up, I'm impatient. But this is genius. In general, this machine is intended for calm, balanced people who do not have the words annoying in their vocabulary, and who are not pampered by propaganda. So, I showed you access to the back row. This is the only way to get in. And nothing else. And there is no need to complain. That's how it's all set up. And when you climb, you feel like a king. The whole world is visible. What a review. And everyone around. What a great landing. Above all. And there are armrests and ashtrays, but nothing opens here. You see, there are not even seat belts here. All right, I'm ready. Now let's take a closer look at the front of the cabin. The interior itself is also a compilation of the already produced, but on a new substrate. Instrument panel with standard instruments from VAZ. There is a lot of information on it, even there is oil pressure. Everything is there, and there is no watch named Ray from the Minsk watch factory. And I remember very well how little Vanya Zinkovich always approached the Ziguli, did this, and looked at what time it was, if it was time to go home. You may not agree with me, but the Niva cabin should be just like that. All cars produced in later years, this is not the same level. I think so. Here we have an audio preparation for a non-existent speaker, one piece. Of course, here we have a steering wheel braid made of such an interesting material. Divine. Shelf. Glove compartment. Angular buttons. Not round suction. Crosspiece vibrations. You probably know that the transfer case and gearbox are not rigidly fixed, not like on a UAZ. Although it could be like a UAZ. The creators of the Niva wanted to make a rigid mount. But by agreement with the Italians, Soviet engineers did not have the right to make design changes to the gearbox. Like this. That is why today we have such result, vibrating shaking parts and a strange sound. Of course, now everything has changed because hinges of equal angular speeds have appeared. And here, on every bump and during overload, there is an obligatory characteristic sound. As if something had fallen off. It is necessary to turn the motor. This makes the Niva even more hysterical. It accelerates hard, resisting with all its gears. Behind is a standard bridge from the VAZ 2106 model. In the front and the gearbox is also from this model, but inverted. From this, it works in the wrong direction. Permanent four-wheel drive is both good and evil at the same time. You can't turn it off, but you really want to. And also it is impossible to block differentials, or rather one can be, in the transfer case. The fact is that the Niva has three of them, in the front axle, in the rear and transfer cases. As soon as one will begins to slip, all the engine power will go to it. It spins, and three stand. We lock the differential in the transfer case, and the two wheels on the opposite axle start to row. But they row as long as it is firm under them. But if the wheels slip diagonally, then this is the end. But who did it stop? And now there is no one. Niva loves and can storm everything at once, fly by. And the motor, to be honest, is not enough at a stretch. Of course, you can stick a downshift, it will be better. But the thing is different, you need to know how to drive the Niva. It is also difficult to call Niva a high-speed car. The papers say it's supposed to drive 80 miles per hour, but 55 is better for it. With a quiet ride, you can meet the consumption of 4.3 gallons per 100 miles. Under other conditions, it will not refuse to eat 5.2 gallons. I'll give you a riddle. What is the most expensive domestic car at the time of production? You won't believe it's Niva. When it appeared, it cost 10,300 rubles, while the Volga cost 9,600. Only in '79, when prices went up, the Volga began to cost 15, and the Niva stayed at 10,600. Yes, it has ceased to be the most expensive, but you must admit, it's also not bad to be number 2 in terms of cost in the USSR. Why is that? Let economists explain, or adherents of the omniscient sect. But one thing is for sure, the Niva is the most successful project of the USSR on the world market. For understanding, Niva is still being produced and still being bought. Crying about quality and cost, these are type mourners and windbags who do not understand the essence of the idea of a car. Niva for centuries, Niva the property of our country. And it seems to me that if the Niva is taken out of production, then our auto industry is depleted completely and irrevocably. The hunt continues.